Hello, everybody. Welcome to this free webinar from Twinkle Educational Publishing and Educational Webinar Jam. Today, we are talking about welcoming refugees to the English language classroom. And I have with me four incredible experts on this topic who are going to take you through a lot about what you need to know to welcome refugees, from what you should do before refugees arrive to your classroom, all the way through to looking after your own well-being. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Let's start off with Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hello, I'm Anna. I live on a very small island in Greece. It's off the Turkish border. And I have been a teacher here for 30 years. I have a private school. And I have been also a volunteer working with refugees since 2015.
Great. Yeah, Anna, you're also one of my personal heroes as well. Next up is Ruth. Ruth, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, so my name is Ruth. I think my contribution to the webinar stems from the fact that I taught ESOL, which is basically English for people who come to live in the UK. So they call it Skills for Life. So I worked with asylum seekers. At the time, they were mainly from Kurdistan. So a while ago, but my experience, I think, of that time will probably help. At the moment, I have my own online school as well, so I've got a lot of experience of teaching online, and that's it. Oh, and I live in Scotland, but I'm not originally from Scotland.
Fabulous. Maria.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm here in Saudi Arabia these days, and I'm the founder of Educational Webinar Jam. And I started this platform just to facilitate teachers with the emergency teaching and distant teaching distress they were going through. And with the ESOL experience in UK while I was doing my CELTA and my master's, and my thesis was around that as well with ESOL learners. So I have that experience around 7 to 8 years ago, and my continuous involvement on my platform gives me more up-to-date knowledge, and hopefully that will help aid in this webinar today as well.
Yes, absolutely. And Emily.
Hi, so I have been teaching people seeking refuge in Scotland since 2007 at Scotland's largest college, City of Glasgow College. In that time, I've also done quite a few secondments with Scottish Refugee Council. I was the lead on the New Scots resettlement strategy for Education Scotland for a while, and I have also written a few books, my latest being the Voices series for National Geographic Learning, and I'm doing a series of Facebook Lives at the moment for them on various, basically interviewing lots of different people about refugee matters.
Amazing. Wow, what an incredible group of high achieving women. Yeah, great. And my name is Miranda. I'm the ESL segment manager here at Twinkle. I'm not an expert on welcoming refugees, so this is going to be a learning process for me as well. My background comes from teaching ESL around the world. I was a founder of a language institute in Bolivia, and I'm a specialist on the impact of language and strategy and entrepreneurship. So let's start with, let's imagine you are a teacher who has just found out that next week you're going to be welcoming 2 refugees into your class. You're probably feeling really nervous. You're not quite sure what level of English they have. You probably have a lot of questions and a lot of feelings as well. What do you think would be the first step for a teacher if they're in this situation?
Okay, well, I'll start. I think in my experience as a teacher, I wouldn't be so worried about their level at this point, but more about making them feel welcome and comfortable. Okay, so there are different ways of communicating at this point. You can use pictures, you can use body language, but definitely for me, the stress of knowing what level they are or what they need to learn wouldn't be the priority. I think it's more about the emotional connection, building a relationship with them. So that would be my priority.
Yes.
Yeah, getting them settled into the classroom and
Yeah. And
Yeah.
having
making
them meet people and feel comfortable, and also maybe finding out a little bit about the support services in your local area. So there might be some different organizations that can help you, maybe with volunteering support or with housing support or educational support, or just opportunities to get them out and about and settle them into the local area and feel welcomed in the local area too.
Mhm.
And for me, I really like to know the more background from which country they're coming from, what kind of distress or trauma they've gone through, because that helps the teachers to welcome them in the beginning, the kind of activities they would do to get them know the culture, and also, something like what kind of language also they speak. Do I have somebody initially in my classroom that have common language with them, because they're going through a lot of distress already, and
Yeah.
just for a teacher who just knows English and can only communicate in English, you need to get them more welcome if you have somebody with similar language in the classroom to pair with them in the beginning, just to get to know them better, and then once they settle in, then we can move on with the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would agree. And making them feel secure, making them feel
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
The level of English is not that important. It's just
Yes.
making them feel at home and
Yeah.
that they're loved. And just knowing them maybe one or two words in their language,
Yes.
that makes them, the connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love when they smile at you when you're pronouncing the words incorrectly.
Yes.
But they love it that you tried at least, even saying hola or something, hello in another language.
Yeah.
But yeah, they give it that smile, that naughty smile is there. All right, she's trying at least.
Exactly.
I think also the classroom environment, if you can have like a flag or a sign in their language, or, maybe the class altogether could prepare something before their arrival so they feel a little bit special. And like Emily said, in terms of external support as well, do you know if there are more refugees in the area? Could they maybe, I think that's quite important, because as teachers, we want to do our best for our students and make them feel as welcome as possible in every way.
Yeah, I think it's important that it's not a focus necessarily on learning the language, because they might not be necessarily focused on learning that. That might not be their priority at the moment. They might be thinking about lots of other things, about their housing situation or their family back home, and getting a bit worried. And actually, maybe learning English is either a distraction for them or
Not the priority at the moment, because they go through different stages, right? So they
Yeah.
start with the adaptation and integration into the society. And when the integration comes, then comes the cultural shock. And then the last, very least priority is the assimilation into society. So that's
Yeah.
where language comes. So initial welcoming has to be something in, a nutshell, something that gives them comfort straight away. Like Anna said, something with safety, something that gives them they will be loved. There's empathy in this classroom. We understand what you go through. So yes, so that's how we can slow and steady.
I have a question as well, because I haven't had the experience myself, but have you ever had to welcome children refugees into your classroom?
No, I've only worked with adults. Yeah.
Yes.
Adults,
And
yeah.
especially the children that I welcomed. Basically, my school was actually, I think, the first school in Greece in general, not English school, in general, to welcome refugee children. And most of them were arriving from Turkey in dinghy boats. Like, many of them had seen people drown, very traumatic. Extremely traumatic. So I made sure that they got a lot of love in my school.
Yeah, they feel welcome, they only feel encouraged coming to school. This detachment from parents, just leaving them even for 15-20 minutes from out of the camp and going to the school is also very stressful in the beginning. Because they were clinging with their parents, they were, very close, and they saw everything. So it comes back as detachment scares them. So it's not easy to bring them to school as well in the beginning. So that comfort, that love, you go and you have to visit the camps yourself in the beginning to
Yes.
okay to trust me, it's okay to come to us. we are here to help you as well is something very important in the beginning for the refugee.
You know, I was talking to a refugee yesterday. She is from Ukraine. She's living in Poland at the moment. And she said that the thing that's really hard is thinking about the future because it's so uncertain. And I think if you're, you know, if a teacher is like, well, now you need to focus on learning this language from the perspective of the learner, they're like, but I don't know what's happening to me next week, where I'm going. So yeah, just I you know, can totally see how that perspective makes sense, focusing on that sense of belonging and
Stability.
Yeah. Routine as well. If you know you have the lessons, and you know, especially for children, oh, this is the day I have my English lesson at this time, and it gives them a sense of purpose.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of my students, for one, I think a lot of them maybe struggle a bit with isolation. We spoke a bit earlier about getting to know the community, and for me, an ESOL class is, well, for me and for my students, a lot of them come, I think, mostly to socialize. They kind of look forward to break time when they can speak in their own language and get to know the people in the class, and maybe once they've been there for a year, they've got a real network. So it was something that during COVID, when we were all teaching online at home, it was something that I was concerned about because they weren't getting that same social time, really.
So what about cultural differences? There are so many things that we might take for granted and think are universal, but that are actually very specific to Anna's nodding, the culture that we come through.
So what surprised me with the children at first, they had Ramadan, and even though I knew the whole procedure, I didn't know that they had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, say their prayers, and the shelter would provide them with dates and bananas and pita bread. And I knew that I didn't have, I was told that I didn't have to warn them out because they were not allowed to drink water. So, and it was already hot. I mean, I live on a Greek island. It was summer.
Yeah.
And so I tried to, you know, keep them less talkative in class, but it was, I mean, what struck me most was how persistent they were. You know, they wouldn't sleep. They would come to the school.
Wow.
I mean, they had been up since 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And then after the Ramadan, you know, we celebrated all together, and like they went to the local markets and they bought new clothes and they were showing off and the toys, and then we danced all together. Like I was a part of their community, and oh, I loved it. I cherished those moments.
You know, this cultural sensitivity, Anna, creates a sense of humanity as well. Those who have already endured so much distress, and, you know, sharing their differences and beliefs, it eradicates lots of misconceptions that refugees have. And I think they're distressed because of it, with the feeling of not being welcome, not being accepted well in the society. So, you know, it provides lots of it gives them great comfort, to be honest. It gives us solace in uncertain times, beyond the classroom as well. You know, when they feel that comfort from a teacher, they will say, okay, she's part of the society. I will get this out of this classroom door as well. So cultural sensitivity, like that was a great thing what you did, celebrated with them. So they felt welcomed, right? They felt, okay, my teacher loves me. She's part of the society. I will be loved like this out of this classroom as well. So that was a great thing to do. Yeah.
I still keep contact with most of my students. Most of them are in Europe now, and we still communicate. And hopefully I will get to see them again one day. They're my children. I
get attached a lot with my students. I call them my babies.
You know how it is.
Still my babies. You know, because yes, I call this role teaching refugees as settlement teachers, because we are not just language, so we're not ESOL teachers only. We're helping them settle in the environment, helping them understand social integration, how to themselves to simple tasks like making an appointment, making groceries. So, it's not just teaching a language. Yes, we are, but we're facilitating in different ways. The 4 stages that I mentioned earlier that they go through. So, so we're not only just ESOL teachers in this role.
Yeah, we're often the first point of contact for,
Yeah.
my roof's leaking, what do I do? Where do I go?
I don't know the name of the plumber, yeah.
It's also about thinking about the little things that we take for granted. I was reading the story about a couple living in UK, and they were waiting at the bus stop for the bus, and the bus just went by a couple of times because they didn't know they had to kind of put their hands out to stop the bus. And it's just something so small, but just little things. Maybe take your time to think about these tiny things, how to, for example, I'm talking about the UK, but we like to queue up for everything. So the rules of queuing up, and they're very silly things, but it gives them the confidence to go out there in the world and to feel included in whatever is happening at the time, and to feel that they're doing the right thing.
If I might add to your conversation, Ruth, is like even giving a hand for a bus to stop. Hand gestures plays a vital role in cultural sensitivity. Some gestures can be really offensive in other cultures, which are okay in our culture. So this is something I learned while teaching them. So you need to really not only understand what are the cultural differences, gestures also. So maybe that hand doesn't mean stop, it means something else, or give way, I'm not waiting for you yet. So we really need to understand from which society, how their gestures different from others. That's also part of cultural integration. And well, I was putting my hand, why I'm supposed to give the way, not to stop, right? So, that's
It's so important to start one of sort of conversations about different cultures. ESOL classes are so multicultural, and so many people from all over the world. But then, it gets lost in a culture. Can be it's not a country thing. It can be a personal thing as well. You can't just say, "Oh, everybody in Scotland celebrates Christmas in this way," when in actual fact everybody celebrates it completely differently from family to family, and from person to person. So it's important to have a conversation, maybe share different traditions and how they do them in their country or in their family, and different ways of doing things personally and as a wider,
I think
wider global.
One of the things. Sorry, Emily.
No problem. Continue.
No.
I'm finished. Sorry.
I think food is a great way of bringing cultures together.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So we used to have these days, like once a month, everybody would bring a dish from their country. It's a great way to have that community vibe and sharing stories around food, and so it's always a great way of like the traditions, like you were saying, Scotland haggis, for example. If you've not heard of it, Anna,
bring anybody together.
You've heard of haggis,
Yes, I've heard
Welcome to Scotland. Have some haggis.
No, but
win a heart through a stomach, I guess.
So when you start giving your lessons, and maybe you have a small group of refugees that you're working with, and you don't know where to start, what do you think would be some good focuses for your lessons, some good activities, if you just don't know where to begin? What would you recommend doing?
Should I go first?
I quite like, so I'm a graphic facilitator, which means that I use simple drawings, which are definitely not art, to get students talking. And I use visual templates, and one of the visual templates I use is a mountain with a hot air balloon beside it. And the mountain can symbolize challenges, so you could get them to think about their challenges, things that they find difficult, and the hot air balloon symbolizes things that lifts them up and maybe things that weigh them down. So it could be things that they like, things that they don't like. The challenges can be focused on things that they find hard for studying, or if you knew, maybe, I think you would maybe do this a little bit later once you knew them a bit more, things that they found difficult in life, or things that maybe work challenges, things, places where you could have it at the top where they want to be, but obviously that depends again where they are, how settled they are. But yeah, lots of different ways that you can use that. Just simply drawing the mountain looks like a triangle and the hot air balloon's a circle with a rectangle underneath it. It's not art. It's on my blog, you'll be able to see it. But yeah, it's a nice way, and it's so adaptable to use in so many different ways.
I love that. So you're basing your lesson aims around the needs of that particular learner.
Yeah. So it's basically using a visual to get from them their own input. So in a way, so that they're kind of leading the lesson themselves. Yeah.
So for me, it's something similar because of the language barriers. Visuals work best. So, as a need analysis survey, we can have visuals around what they really want the initial focus on. So we can plan our lessons around that, just simple meet and greet communication in the beginning, just to know the whole name, like the surnames are very important, which some countries don't, they just go by the first names. Knowing their addresses or something. So, you can have some pictures around with the house. Do you want to know the address of this house? So they can just tick, instead of just understanding the word or knowing that word in English or in another language they don't know. Visuals don't have any language, but they communicate very well. So like Emily said, that was an excellent way to understand the integration or the needs. So just ticking a box to a picture that they want to start with first, or even numbering them in the order they want to start first as well, helps a teacher to, plan her lessons around it, or start the most important topic first and then, continue with the rest.
Yeah, nice idea.
I would say if you have a group of refugees and they all come from, say, the same organization or the same place, maybe liaise with a person that is helping them and find out what their immediate needs may be. So it could be housing, it could be, shopping for food, it could be anything. So if you have like topics that are applicable to a group of people. I mean, I completely agree with the individual plan. I think that that's really helpful with visuals, but sometimes I had groups, so it was easier to know what to plan because I knew they would have to find a job, or they would have, they were looking for housing, etc. So there's that option as well, I think.
Yeah, and you use a lot of role plays to act out those situations and build conversations. Yeah, definitely. And I think the ESOL resources are really good when it comes to this because they're very practical. So things like shopping, health. I would just like to say, and I think, Anna, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I moved to Italy. I was in Italy for a year with my 7-year-old. And the first sentence he learned in Italian was, "Do you want to play with me?" And I think for children, the priorities are a little bit different.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, they want to connect.
Yeah, like I've got a nursery, so we would sit and play and sing songs. That would be my lesson at first, and then we would move on. But I did teach adults too, but mostly the children. That's how we started off, with singing and playing games. And I mean, they would just catch on like that.
Kids are the best, because they soak up everything. They're like sponges, so they're the best age. But the adult learners is harder because they feel more responsible. They feel the urgency to integrate as fast as possible. So there we need to have a plan, sit up with them and arrange a plan what they prefer first, and then move on from there.
Great. So we're talking about lessons based around meeting practical needs. So after this lesson, I can now go to the supermarket and know how much money to give or pay with a card and answer those questions. And also lessons around meeting social needs and being able to make social connections, and that being particularly important for adults, but particularly important for children.
May I say something? Bear in mind that most of the refugees that were, especially on Leros, I mean, they would leave when the borders were still open, like they would leave within a very small time period, like maybe after a week. So we had to make sure that they were kind of not prepared, should I say, just to move on to their next step, because most of them were just going to Europe. But that was before the borders were closed, because many of them were trapped. But that's another story.
Yeah. So
I think, sorry, Miranda, just on the topic of topics, if you like, I think health and safety is quite important,
Yes.
in terms of silly things like, for example, we drive on the left, which side of the road to look.
Oh yes, that's a serious one.
Yes, it's very silly, but very practical things. I think is essential. Like shopping is definitely one of the first ones, but just getting around. I think social small talk. How can you engage with another person? For example, oh, the weather, it's raining today. It's a simple thing, but it can make them feel more comfortable, more.
And just again, coming back to the local area thing, maybe like doing a lesson on things that they can do in their local area. So free things, like if there's a free cooking class, or today I was asking my students if they wanted to get involved in a free cycling lesson. Things like that. If you keep your eyes open in the local area, and then they can go along to those classes and get to know people and then practice their English.
I would agree with Emily. Going back to what you said, Miranda, about role plays, I used to actually go to places with my students, like we would go to the doctor's surgery and look at the posters and where things are, and role play in the surgery what to do.
wow.
If that's possible, take it outside, and so they can experience it for themselves.
Keep it real. And things like form filling. So if you're filling in a form, if you're practicing form filling, you might as well be doing it for going to a GP and completing that particular form, which is real, for example.
Yes, that's so true. That is so true. I remember, I think I made one activity for ESL, which was a battleships activity. And a teacher got in touch with me and was like, please, I cannot use this with my refugee students. We can't talk about thinking about we need to make a version of this which is all about fruit, please. And I was like, yes, I didn't even think about that, as well as lesson aims, looking at individual activities from the perspective of someone who's been through a traumatic experience.
I remember when I first started teaching.
Not a game.
I remember playing hangman with the students when I first started teaching, and I soon realized that was really, really terrible thing to be. It became the smiley face. You have to be smiley face.
Also, something like statutory holidays are not perceived well, especially when they are coming in the early days of integration into a classroom. Mother's Day or Family Day, they might have lost a parent in this process, or their in migration to another country, they might be suffering from something. The family member is lost. So we don't understand that. Sometimes we think, oh, it's a fun day, we will teach them what Mother's Day is, but it's not. So we really need to take care of using things like that. Simple things like fire drills scare them, because some of them, the mothers are there, their kids are in their daycares, and there's a panic, there's a stress around. They don't really realize why this fire drill is happening. They think that it's the scenario similar to war or something they have come from. So really need to tell them, I think, from the beginning when they are coming to the classroom, that normally there's a day fixed for fire drills. I don't know, here in part of the world we have Wednesdays or something like that. So a day before we can tell them, at this time while we'll be in the classroom, this will happen, don't stress out. That also simple things, not only just thinking about the lesson, how to plan them, extra things that comes as a package in that classroom, any pictures that bring them distress. So in the initial days, we should avoid that, any kind of visuals. And then slowly, obviously, once we build on, they have that confidence, they settle in, they're much better, they're relaxed, language abilities are getting better, their proficiency is getting better. that's where we can add more topics and things.
Definitely. Yeah, things like family can be quite distressing to talk about. So it's giving them an option instead. Maybe if you don't want to talk about your family, talk about a close friend instead. And
or just tell your story where you are from, like we started introducing each other, and simple things, just without visuals and slow paced. Something I realized that I used to talk very fast, so in a very slow paced, using more of body language, more hands, even making sounds or pictures or hearts. So more visuals, more hand movement.
Another thing well, at least me personally, I feel inclined to encourage someone to speak as much as possible. So to kind of ask questions, get them to speak. And I think with people like refugees that are going through a traumatic experience, it's also accepting that sometimes they just might not want to speak at all. It's nothing to do with language. It's just how they feel, and being able to take a step back and say, okay, that's great. Maybe another day, let's move on. And it's fighting against that urge to say, okay, but tell me, what time do you get up? What did you do yesterday?
I don't want to know whether I brushed my teeth today or not. So let's something that really worked well for me. I created gallery activity. I think it's very common in ESOL, but I use prominent buildings and icons around that city, and that they used to walk past every day and see, but they didn't know the names of it. So one day they came with the classroom with the gallery activity with pictures all around on the walls. They could see those buildings. Oh, I've been there, or I've seen that. What's the name? So they felt so happy by the end of the lesson. Now they know the names of the buildings they've been passing by every day, even if it was just a library or just a Tesco. Or but they really knowing the names was an achievement for them, for simple buildings around them. So
and you can take them on day trips to those buildings as well.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
they like day trips. Yes.
And yes, when you take them to a day trip, oh wow, now I know what this is called. Now I know.
Yeah, and
it's
big
like
boost in confidence and security as well. That's supposed to be in place.
It's like you were saying, Emily. It's all about the local community. If they we can be that support as a teacher. They feel, oh, if my teacher's here with me and we're walking around and people, and she can help me communicate, and it just gives you the confidence to feel accepted by the community in a way as well, a part of the community.
Yeah, we've had the police into the college to talk to the students and to deliver training, because I think in some countries there's maybe not that the police are maybe seen as here comes the police, what are they going to do to us, whereas in Scotland it's very much you can phone the police and they will help you. So there's a kind of cultural thing there as well. And the fire service, I quite like taking them to the fire station. We had a student once who lived in a high-rise flat who had a barbecue on the balcony of the high-rise flat, which obviously didn't go down very well. But this was a bit of fire safety and taking them to the fire into the fire station, again, just community networking and giving them an opportunity to speak to somebody that isn't a teacher as well.
A
real accent, a real scary accent. Fast.
Bake sale, going back to the connection of food and role play, having a quick bake sale or any kind of food that they are used to, just bread or anything, and give them some money on hand to just play around and ask for how much does it cost, and just taking a change, and even figuring out notes and coins. Even for me, if I'm visiting another country, I keep on reading twice what note it is or what coin, especially coins drives me mad in the UK. Sorry, no offense there. The pennies and the 2 pence and the 20 pence and those, So, but that's also challenging. So that's again a thing to, while role play, just casually having just a shop in their little, they can just go and buy and just understand the currency use as well.
Maria, just on the back of that food shopping, I had my own cultural shock when I moved to Scotland, because people at the checkout in supermarkets like to talk to you. And I wasn't used to this. right? So you can
Yes,
imagine.
Scottish people are very friendly. I
Yeah.
frequently go there. My daughter's there, so I visit Glasgow a
I know.
lot, and they just
And-
love to talk.
And you can imagine a refugee going to the shop, nervous enough to have, to
Yeah.
count the money, to do all of this, and then suddenly there's someone there saying,
So that,
"Oh, sorry."
helps, yeah. That
Yeah.
helps. They know
And
the
then-
small talk, and then, doing this with little currency in their classroom, understanding what coins are, what notes, what change they get back. Also, it's a very good and useful activity, bringing realia into the classroom that way.
Mhm.
So we're talking about taking the classroom into the real world as much as
Yes.
possible, and then also bringing the real world into the classroom as much as possible. So we're
Yes.
blurring those lines so that
Yeah.
they can see the practical application of everything that they're learning in class, and everything is useful. And what about the balance? When you do go into the stage where you're inputting language, what is the balance, do you think, between the relationship building and the well-being side and the academic learning side? What's is there a balance? Do you balance?
I think your students definitely need to feel like they're coming to class and learning English. I think if they were going on a day trip every day, they would soon tell you that that wasn't what they were here for. And I think I think the majority of the time should probably be classroom based and focusing on really practical things that are going to equip them for their life and meet their needs.
Yes, it's more about lifelong learning skills and more about communicative language teaching. So academics does not come in because we're not focusing on grammar. We are not focusing on how the sentence is complete. It's how effectively they're communicating, right? So the vocabulary is the most focus in a refugee teaching lesson. So with pictures, relating them to the vocabulary words, having them around the classroom and connecting with words, sentence and building a sentence and paragraph. Yeah, it does. It depends again, because we have mixed abilities coming to these
Yes,
classes.
yeah.
So we can group them according to that. And recently I was reading yesterday that some universities have opened up their doors for higher education that can complete their studies there. It was amazing. I think it's in UK when some of the universities have opened doors for higher education to be completed here while they are going through this phase. So that's amazing as well. So it's not only us as teachers, it's outside the classroom, how the government, how the other institutions are helping to facilitate them. So in an individual basis, yes, depends on the language abilities we have, and we can have them around that.
I must say that with the adult, first with the adult refugees and then with the children, we conducted examinations on the island, and they passed exams, and they left for Europe with a certificate, and they could actually prove their knowledge.
Yeah.
And they felt really good about it. And that was with an NGO that I was working with. And they're still having exams now. And like they can prove that they know English, like they tried really hard, but they achieved B2 and C2 levels.
Amazing, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Wow, exactly. Wow, Miranda.
Oh.
Exactly. Wow. Yes, with the adults, not the children. The children, we did the young learners.
Yeah.
Like they sat along my students, that was a beautiful experience. Like having the Greek children sit along with the refugee children, sit exam.
Nice, amazing, yeah.
And
I guess it's true when we think about well-being and academic achievement, it's not an either-or thing. That academic achievement will build their sense of well-being and progress, and vice versa. Well-being will build their academic achievement. This is not a trade-off. This is a holistic approach.
I think it depends on their.
Go ahead.
It depends on what their ultimate goal is. If they're staying in the country, what do they need to know?
True.
Or if they're moving on, or if they, like you were saying, Maria, about higher education, they might need a qualification to be able to, continue their studies. It's very much about the group of people that you're working with. What is it that is going to help them settle into a new life, whatever that might be? So I agree, it could be a qualification, absolutely. But like you said, Miranda, whatever it may be, it's going to make them feel confident. It's going to contribute towards their well-being.
Exactly.
And the sense of achievement, imagine that, what Anna's saying, wow, that's like the immediate boost of confidence. Well, I've achieved something.
Exactly.
I'll be a better person. I'll be able to contribute better for my family. I will be able to earn better for my family. So that's amazing. Yeah. So it's, I think the first hands they reach to should integrate them, or give them a pathway to a better future for them. So connect them to schools or institutions that really give them something, a sense of achievement and confidence there.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on, I talked to a wonderful volunteer, Justina, who is a volunteer with the Polish Humanitarian Action Service, PAH, and she had some tips on very specific tips that I loved on things not to do or not to say, and some alternatives instead. So I'd love to share those, and then I'd love to hear your own ideas as well about what you would add to those lists. So one thing that she said is, don't say, "Tell me what happened," because some people don't want to talk about it. Maybe you're not the right person, maybe this isn't the right time, maybe that's not how they are dealing with what has happened in their life. She said, instead, a great question to ask is, how can I help you? And that gives people the space to open up if they would like to, when they are ready, in the environment in which they are ready, and without putting that pressure on. Her next thing was, don't say, everything's going to be okay, because it just isn't. Another phrase I've heard could be unhelpful is, everything happens for a reason. That might really disconnect, alienate someone, and it doesn't give justification doesn't help them to validate their feelings. Instead, you want to focus on, you want to be positive but practical, and say, okay, well, here are some options about what we can do next to help you, and be clear on those next steps. Whatever, like you're saying, being receptive to what their goals are in their future. One thing she said was a problem is, don't treat people like they are less than. You should treat people like they are your customers. One thing, I don't know if you watch Queer Eye, but I think the Queer Eye, those 5 presenters on that show are fantastic at treating people like they are, the most important person in the world while they are with them. And that gives them like this huge boost in confidence. So go to every single person like they are your customer, instead of like someone who needs help. And I think that really changes the dynamic as well, and changes their sense of self and sense of confidence in that country. Don't give people 100% of the burden of overcoming the linguistic barrier, learning some of the, changing your language as much as you can, because that linguistic barrier does cause a lot of stress. But offering survival language kits, helping to bridge that barrier. Don't expect people to be eternally grateful. They are going to be experiencing a huge range of emotions. They might want to accept your help, but they should also have the right to refuse help as well. I think accepting help can be a really difficult thing to do. It is hard, and we don't want to force people into feeling like they have to accept help. They don't want it. And finally, don't be overbearing with kind of trying to be aggressively friendly. You want to be friendly, yes, but also calm. You need to be centered yourself, so that people have the space to feel and can share those feelings when and how they want. Yeah, those are all from Stina. What would you like to add to that list of do's and don'ts?
I think it does come down to putting the learner at the center of the learning and adapting to whatever their needs are. And if they're asking for help, then you can try to help them in whatever way you can. It might just be signposting them to another organization, because you can't obviously help them with absolutely everything. And yeah, you're a language teacher at the end of the day. You're not the solver of all their problems. Yeah, I think just basically adapting to their needs and trying to do your best, really. And yeah, those were some really good tips.
I agree. I think also not to take things personally. So if your student doesn't want to talk to you, if they're not progressing, or if whatever it may be, you have to think, it's not about me failing or succeeding as a teacher. It's about me being here for them, basically. And I know sometimes I feel, oh, I failed, they're not progressing, or they're not. And it's kind of trying to push that aside and think, no.
Yeah, I think a lot of the progress thing really comes down to that prioritizing. So there might not be that English might not be their priority because they're worrying about all the other things that they're worrying about. So yeah, definitely give space to that.
I think you should know your limitation of empathy, the limit you can. I know we, being ESOL teachers and being connected with them so closely, we feel their pain, we understand. But, sometimes you go overboard, and you should have some boundaries. You should take it slowly and steadily. There are days when they don't want to talk, like Ruth said. There are days when they like to be more communicative. So go with it, go with the flow of the lesson. So yeah, and of course, like you said, Miranda, it's never going to be the same. And obviously being in an independent country of their own, having their own house, having their own jobs, locked up and left behind, coming back with just a backpack to another country, starting from zero is hard. So obviously saying that it's going to be okay, everything is going to be fine, it hurts, right? It just scratches their wounds. They don't want to hear that. And again, asking assistance can be really hard, especially if you are an independent person, earning well, and just shut down everything and starting from square one. So so you really need to understand the level of empathy, your gratitude and kindness you can give. But I always, not even the refugees, I also tell my students here, it's okay to make mistakes. I'm not laughing at you. They are not laughing at you. So that comfort also, mistakes, even just to say a word or pronunciation, something, it's okay. I understood what you meant. So comfort also helps. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say, I don't want to do it. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. It's okay. Go and take some time, have a walk outside and come back. So so this is very important to understand. Put yourself in their shoes and really understand what they have gone through.
In a nutshell, just reach out your hand and say, I'm here. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said. Yeah.
That's it.
Can I ask Anna a quick question? Because it's to do with the empathy and the kind of being able to set the boundaries. How? Because for me, it would have been absolutely heartbreaking seeing those children in those circumstances. How did you cope with that? How did you manage that?
Me, you can't cope. You can't. Very traumatic. I have seen a lot of children lose their parents, mothers lose their children. I had to comfort them because I was a volunteer. And let's just say I'm not the same person I used to be. There's a scar. There is a scar, and a deep one.
But I imagine that knowing that some of them are safe and doing well, it's that kind of balance, isn't it?
It is, but I do get very emotional even now.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
It's
thank
a
you.
part of my life.
It's understandable, yeah, and
It's part of me now.
it hurts. It's not easy.
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah,
And
I
thank
was
you.
speaking to Miranda the other day, and I was telling her, like me, we're coming from, my forefathers also migrated long time ago when we had independence of a country, and the trauma they went through, losing their family members and stress. And I hear those stories from my parents now, and it brings tears to my eyes. And it really, I grew up with listening to those stories even today, like how much they have lost behind. It's not the same today. It will never be the same ever, what they have left behind. It hurts.
No.
But yeah, unfortunately, that's how world is. That's how life brings things around. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everything that you're doing. And thank you for sharing those experiences, because I can see it is so emotional. And it's all very well to say, look after your own mental health. But this is real trauma that is life-changing. And like you said, goes down through generations.
Yeah.
So, in terms of looking after your mental health, that's a huge challenge. We shouldn't minimize it. But are there things like, have you found support through members of your family, reaching out to friends? What has helped you in the best way kind of like move forward with those experiences?
Well, speaking now as a volunteer mostly, not as a teacher. We were a group of volunteers, and we supported each other. And, we're all in this together. And yes, we would often cry, like looking back now, remember this, remember that. You just find the power, you find it. It's like in the Phoenix,
Yeah. Yes.
It's life. It's
kind.
life.
It's a sad reality, yeah, but I think our own teachers' well-being can only be if you have nice mentors or your peers working with you, where you can cry buckets out with them and just, it's okay, I'm going back to class, I'm fine now. This building your emotional resilience is very important, because they're already very emotional in the classroom. The students are coming with us. So if we as teachers keep on showing that to them as well, trying in front of them, and it will be difficult. So it's not easy to put up a smiley face when you're really feeling the pain, but you really have to build your emotional resilience there.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is leaning on your peers and your colleagues as well, and really supporting each other and being there for each other, because it's talking it through gets it out, and you know that you're not alone then. And certainly most of my colleagues have experienced similar things, and there is a point where you have to say, no, I need to be a teacher now. I'm not a social worker, and then now I need to signpost onto other organizations to do these bits, because that's not where
okay, so kind of framing your role as, I can't be everything, even though I want to, I can't be everything for this person, so I'm going to do the role that I have the best that I can. That is the best way to give.
So like Emily said, keeping focused on your goals. What is the purpose here?
It can be so easy to go off track.
Oh, yes.
Before, I've been there myself.
Yes, we all have, I'm sure.
Going above and beyond, and then realizing, wait, this is taking over my life.
Never ending.
Right. And where can teachers go for extra support? I mean, we have on the Twinkl website, we have free dual language resources and packs for international arrivals that will hopefully give some support to teachers. Where would you recommend teachers go for extra help?
You know, this UNHCR has amazing resources, and they have categorized age-wise as well, themes-wise as well. That's very useful because they have gone through that, they go through that process, right? No matter which country they're working in. So I think that's the first starting point for anybody who's a first timer getting in, opportunity to teach refugees would have something that is, just appropriate for them, and we don't have to worry the topic maybe it's not right, maybe the focus of the lesson is not what I really wanted, but with time there are loads of other things, but I think to start from there is a good point to start with.
So I'm working on a National Geographic Learning series of Facebook Lives at the moment, which will be on their Teaching Through Teaching Through Crisis section of their site. You can get it from the National Geographic Learning Europe Facebook page. So I'll be doing so you can catch up on all them then through that. There's also, so if you follow Alex Palanak, so it's Alex ALEKS. She has some. She works at the University of Leicester, and she's done quite a lot of research papers on teaching through trauma-informed practice. And there's also some Future Learn courses. If you just go to Future Learn and type in refugee, there's lots of different courses that you can do, and they're all free.
Also, British Council has started new courses that are absolutely free, that teachers can go and have their own self-paced learning there to how to teach refugees. So that's also something really nice.
Yeah.
If you're based in the UK, you're teaching refugees in the UK, then the Skills for Life ESOL website has all the. I mean, they're very specific to the UK, of course, but if that's the case, they're all for free, and you can download all the lesson plans and materials as well.
Well, thank you for the tips, ladies. I relied on myself.
And let's not forget your websites.
Yes. Yes, my website has started adding resources for the teachers. This gallery activity I was talking about has it had the pictures and everything there, and there's some grammar lessons. We are slowly adding more resources there as well. There are lots of trainings there for teachers, pre-recorded webinars as well with those teachers who sometimes they're teaching on distance learning as well. Doesn't mean they are physically there. I know lots of teachers who are, helping and volunteering online for refugees or any other way. So there are lots of language learning tools there that makes it interactive and engaging. So they can go on that pre-recording sessions and learn from there.
Yes, and Ruth, you have a website as well.
I do, yes. My website is mainly for adults, so people looking to progress in their careers. But when it comes to refugees, there are tips on job interviews, tips on writing emails, CVs, and also to help with pronunciation. So it's maybe another level, not so much about the initial stage when you go into a country, but, once you're settled and you're looking to find a job there, definitely my blog is full of tips and resources as well.
What's the name of that site?
Yeah, please share.
It's funny because someone mentioned the word Phoenix earlier, and it's actually called, because my surname is Finney, it's the Phoenix School of English. But spelled FINNIX.
Okay.
Great.
Another place to go, when I forgot to mention it, was my blog as well. So I've got quite a few different blog posts about other books that you might like to read that have got refugee themes through them, and my Sharing Life, Sharing Languages project that I did for the Scottish Refugee Council, plus a whole load of visual graphic facilitation ideas as well. Yeah, Emily Bryson ELT. So go there.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thank you so much. I really hope this webinar has been useful for the people watching. You can get your certificate right now. You'll see a link on your screen, which will allow you to go to a Google form, and a certificate will be sent to your email inbox. Because well done, you've hopefully learned something new and have learned some new skills that you can take forward into your teaching practice. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to our incredible guest speakers. And honestly, I'm honored by hearing your stories and all the experience and the incredible, wonderful things that you've achieved. how many people that you've helped over the years is like incredible to me. So thank you, and thank you for watching.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So much.
Thank you.
Lovely to
Thank
meet
you so
everybody.
much, Miranda.